everyone, it's me, Rebecca, the Colorful Booknester over here at Rivercrest Cottage, and I wanted to come and discuss with you how I plan on participating in #nonfictionnovember. So just a brief little background to kind of know where this come from. I would think most of you probably know, if you are avid BookTube watchers, it's everywhere, and it is all because of ABookOlive. And 5 years ago this year, she started this #nonfictionnovember in an effort to get people to read more nonfiction, saying things like, if you only read one and you don't normally ever read nonfiction, you've more than doubled it, right? So that's kind of the idea, to encourage you to read more nonfiction than you normally would. Now, I got to thinking about it and was really surprised how I don't read much nonfiction, which is really not very sensical on my behalf, because my favorite genre to read is historical fiction, based on fictional characters placed in a historical, real event, time and place, and interacting with real historical figures of that time. And I always say I love it because I learn so much about history. So you think that my bookshelf should be lined with biographies and autobiographies and history books, and it's just not. And definitely not memoirs. I always think of a memoir as only for, the rich and famous, for actors and actresses and, maybe an author here and there. But those aren't the type of people I want to read about. I want to read about the times and places and the people that really were there. So why I haven't been reading more nonfiction really surprises me. The other thing is I love nature, and I like learning about different nature. I watch it all the time here at Rivercrest Cottage, and I'm just fascinated when I see intelligence and planning and, large groups of animals working together, even seeing the cycles of nature. I read a lot of gardening books. So that is a nonfiction, technically, right? So yeah, I read a little, but not very much. So for Nonfiction November, what I've decided is I'm going to read 2 books. And it's funny because when I started thinking about them and kind of getting my thoughts around them, I thought that's how funny that they're opposite memoirs. So one of them is about escaping a place, and the other one is about trying to stay in place. And they're both based out in a rural area. So kind of interesting that I'm gravitated to both. So the first one that I want to talk about is one I'm actually listening to. And that's something I do a lot. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So this one I started November 1st, and it's called Educated. It is about, let me tell you who it's from. The first book is Educated by Tara Westover. She was born into a survivalist family, and this is what this memoir is about. And there was no hospitals, no outside schooling, but somehow through all that, and by survivalists we mean people who think the end of days are coming and they're going to be the only ones that are still alive, or they will be fighting it out with other people who didn't prepare. So they're also sometimes known as preppers and things like that. But they're in the mountains of Idaho. But what's interesting is that, so she starts out there, and there's no going to the hospital, going to the doctor, any of that, and then there is no going to public school. But somehow, and I don't know because I've just started listening to it, she gets herself all the way to Harvard and Cambridge, and now of course writing a book as well. So very, very interesting so far, and I've heard a lot of hype about it. People have just talked about it nonstop. I'm sure it's all over BookTube. If I went and did a little search on Educated by Tara Westover, I'd probably get a lot of videos. But because I kind of want to go into this unknowing, other than what's basically on the blurb on the book jackets, which I don't have, but the blurb on the audiobook, that was enough for me. The second book, which I just threw up in the air to show you, is going to be The Shepherd's Life. And this is Modern Dispatches from an Ancient Landscape. It's a People's History of the Lake District. So it's A Shepherd's Life, A People's History of the Lake District by James Rebanks. And this one I have had on my bookshelf for multiple years. It was published in 2015. And again, this is kind of one of the blurbs that they say in here is, most memoirs are about people working desperately hard to leave a place. This is a story of someone trying desperately to stay. And that's when I was reading about this one and getting ready for this, I went, oh gosh, that's so funny that it's the complete opposite of Educated, which was all about her getting out of that situation and how much it changed her life. He is interesting. He is a first son of a shepherd who is also the first son of a shepherd. So they've been in this area, the Lake District, for many, many years. They are generations after generations. And he started a Twitter account, and when he was out with his sheep and stuff, he would send pictures and he started doing this Twitter following he developed was amazing. And he is at Herdy Shepherd 1. All this information will be down below for you, but it's at Herdy Shepherd 1 if you want to follow him on Twitter. And that's how I actually ever heard about him for the first time, was somehow through Twitter, somebody either mentioning it, or one of the other people I was following kept posting stuff from him, and then immediately made me want to go out and get the book. However, did not immediately read it, which isn't that part of our problems. But so I am reading this off of my TBR, or off my bookshelf to be read. So it's The Shepherd's Life. So those are the two that I'm planning for Nonfiction November. If I get anything further, if I get those done, I still want to be able to have more of my traditional novels and fiction reading as well. So, but those are my two goals for these two, and I think that they're going to be interesting. What's really kind of cool is, okay, so she went to Cambridge eventually. She ended up in Cambridge, Tara did, and James Rebanks is actually a graduate from Oxford, so we got kind of a battle going on there, I can think. But I do think that makes him an unusual shepherd in the aspect that he went to Oxford, and he also works with UNESCO for sustainable tourism now. So those are the two books I'm going to be reading. I'd love to know if you're reading anything, or if you have some nonfiction books to suggest for me, not necessarily for this year, but definitely for me to start putting on my TBR for future, that would fall in these realms a little bit, more of a historical memoir maybe, or if it's about a way of life or something like that, I think I'd be interested in that. So I hope you're having a great beginning to November. I hope you pick up a nonfiction book, and I'm sure I will be back soon. Keep turning those pages. Until next time, bye for now.